Have you ever had a moment where you thought, I have a great idea, but I'm scared to start because I don't know how or where to begin? That hesitation, that gap between inspiration and action stops us a lot of times from taking that next step. Well, I'm excited to have Dylan here who took the next step and he wasn't afraid to be able to navigate and take on starting a new venture. Dylan has navigated a journey from neuroscience research to investment banking and now to pioneering a disruptive communication tool. So, Dylan, I'm so excited to have you. I know a lot of people that are watching this are at different spaces, whether they may be a student or further along in their professional journey. But I know this is going to be a very valuable time for us to be able to have this conversation and learn more about your work. So, my first question is, tell me a little bit about your journey you have taken from neuroscience research to investment banking and now launching NerChat. What sparked your passion for blending neuroscience, technology, and communication?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me here, Jordan. I really appreciate it. Um, the question you have is a good one. It's really about I could tell you about the story, how it all started. Um, Went to Vanderbilt with a really deep interest in neuroscience because I've done research in the past in high school, working at Columbia University. So came in during peak of COVID. It was a pretty difficult time, as many of my friends can attest to. Came straight into a telehealth lab, and really that was my first brush with this intersection of technology and healthcare, and seeing how we had to adapt in such a critical period of time during COVID. And my hospital that I was working at, they went from doing about 50 to 100 telehealth visits a day to thousands and thousands because all the patients were going remote. Um, Around the same time, around freshman year, a buddy of mine we got into the Vanderbilt Investment Club. Um, I had no idea what, investment banking, this sort of financial side of things was. But it turns out when you go to a school like Vanderbilt, it's very much pre-professional. And most of your friends will probably be going into the realms of like finance or consulting. So inevitably, that was something that I was exposed to. And working in finance is kind of a really interesting way to see the business side of a lot of the healthcare and organizations that I've been exposed to. So I had the pleasure of working at a health tech startup called Fatango Health. Later on, I worked at an investment bank called Dillon that focused on biotech and healthcare. And around that time, I was actually working on pretty interesting healthcare deals, seeing the FDA process and things like that. One of my projects was tangentially related to autism, and it required a lot of deep diving into the competitors and the different types of companies. I became super interested in kind of understanding what was this environment, what was the playing field going on right now. And I saw a lot of behavioral therapy. Um, Coming back to Vanderbilt, the one thing that really sparked my passion for communication, like you mentioned, was actually a relationship I had with a friend. So I love to do some volunteering in my local organizations like Friendship Circle at Vanderbilt was Best Buddies. And I made a really good friend there who actually ended up being non-speaking, and he was utilizing a talker, or what I later found out to be an AAC device. And for those who don't know, AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. And it's basically a way in which individuals who can't normally use their voice to communicate with you and I, they use an alternative method from their voice that augments them, helps them speak. So in this case, it would usually be in the form of an iPad. You can click certain buttons and it has voice output. I became really interested in this device. The problem was that every time I would go back and forth from Nashville to New York, where I'm from, our communication became impossible. We really had so much strain on our relationship. It was as if like we weren't friends anymore. And he had so much energy, and I always wish I could have sustained that energy. But the issue was this distance, the miles, and his device was effectively, he was siloed to his device. It was as if he couldn't really communicate if he wasn't with somebody. It was very, very frustrating. And that's when I really did this deep dive with my co-founder, Scott, and I, doing a really interesting dive into what is the world of communication technology, how are we doing this now, and what are the gaps that exist. And that's kind of how I became introduced to all of this.
Oh, I love that story. I do want to ask, can you give us a quick overview before I go into the next question of what NerChat is and the value that it provides to the people that you're serving?
Sure, happy to do it. NerChat is an assistive technology that really focuses on this idea of autonomy and independence. So one of the key things that we had seen throughout our customer discovery process was, having interviewed over 300 parents, educators, therapists, everyone around, trying to understand communication, we found that there are these very unique gaps that exist in the current tech offerings. One of those being that remote issue in which I can only use my device when I'm with you. The mechanisms for sharing your voice were very difficult and not intuitive. Secondly, we were seeing that individuals who rely, specifically those who have speech and hearing difficulties, they would tend to fall through the cracks of traditional technology. Think of this Zoom that we're on right now. These are not designed with, individuals that may have different needs in mind. So it was this idea of accessible design that really sparked this interest. Another case in point is, like, think of your iPhone. Your iPhone is not designed, again, for those with speech and hearing difficulties. NerChat bridges that gap. We decided to pick up all those people who are falling through the cracks by creating technology that integrates seamlessly into all existing technologies. Our current offering that's available to the public is called the Leaf Keyboard. When you download NerChat, it allows you to use your AAC board in any app. Just the same way you can change from one language to another, you can switch to your communication symbol board and be able to utilize it in family WhatsApp groups, in traditional apps that friends and family are on, to draft emails, to join in Slacks. So work has never been easier using our offering.
Okay, so I have so many questions,
Totally.
but I'm going to give you one. So if someone, let's say, is out at a restaurant, so you're saying that there's so many different types of augmentative alternative communication, and they have different layouts on each. Everyone's different. So you're saying that what you all have is able to integrate into the phone? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So if someone's at a restaurant, can you walk us through what that would look like? Would they still have to pull out their augmentative and alternative communication device, or how is it going into the phone?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the thing about our device, let's talk about the traditional landscape. In order to get these devices, it's very difficult. Sometimes you go through insurance, these 6-month processes, and at the end of the day, you're given one of these bulky iPads, right? These are the talkers that you may see individuals walking around with. The thing that's different about us is that we are a cloud-based platform, which means that we can go on any device, be it those iPads, be it your phone. So now with that account-based idea in mind, I can use my regular large iPad, or if I'm going to a restaurant per se, or if I'm bagging groceries at the local grocery store and I want to feel like I'm, fitting in with the general public, like most of us do when we're, in the critical ages of 18 plus, it's like you can pull out your phone and actually utilize it in person, and you can send messages and you can text on these traditional apps.
Okay, I understand. Wow, this is powerful. And you all have created something that is disruptive, I believe, because I have not seen anything like that before. So are you all the first one to create something like this, where it's really being able to seamlessly integrate, as well as to be able to have those social aspects too?
Yeah, that's right. No one has developed these sorts of integration features that we have, specifically when it comes to that in-app keyboard. It's never been done. The same way when we actually very recently, and I'm happy to announce this, created a video conferencing integration. Now you can utilize your AAC board. You can utilize your symbols in any sort of telehealth or teletherapy platform, essentially. No company is able to do that. The reason why we've been able to is actually due to the amazing team we have. So my co-founder, Scott, he was the type of individual who, when he was 8 years old, he would hack cars. He was the genius on the block. And along with him and our amazing, amazing team, they found ways in which we could take this really meaningful and helpful technology and put it in places where it isn't usually. And that's just a novel aspect, because the rest of the companies in the space, they're not really focusing on those ideas. We are very fascinated with how can we give those individuals who rely on this as their primary method of communication more independence and more autonomy to do things like be in these family group chats or advocate for important things like their health needs or participate on a teletherapy platform, just like you and I are doing on a video conferencing platform.
I love that. And so there's some people that are watching and there's students or professionals, and they may be wondering, how can they start making an impact early? I believe that a lot of times you had stated in one of your previous videos that I saw that NerChat wasn't the first idea that you came up with. This was multiple times going back to your friend Scott and bringing up different ideas. So what advice would you give to students or professionals who want to innovate in their fields or maybe even out of their fields, especially in the tech world?
Yeah, it's a great question. It all comes down to something we learned from being in Vanderbilt's programs. So Vanderbilt actually has an array of different startup programs where they help support ideation and entrepreneurship. One of the key things that they really hammer into you is this idea of customer discovery. It is like the golden rule. What that means, it goes to that point of what I was mentioning in the beginning. Before we even built a single thing, Scott and I went on a journey to really open our minds and listen to as many people as possible. Speak to the people who have the real world experience. Throw down your ego, throw down your bias. You get there and you open your ears and you close your mouth and you listen, ask open-ended questions. We spent like the better half of 2 years doing this before we built a single thing. That's how you can attain a level of understanding of what the playing field is. What are the current solutions? What can you do? From there, that's when you can execute. So it's this idea of first being able to listen and understand, building your minimal viable product, building that all-star team, the people that you know will go to war with you. They'll work with you day and night, no matter how many hours, no matter how many calls, when your friends are going out, when other people are doing different things. The people that are built with that type of energy and tenacity, building a product, speaking to customers, and giving it out. And giving it to people for free, especially in the beginning, giving it to as many people as possible and getting feedback. And that's the way you learn and you build a great product. Because at the end of the day, you can't find this product market fit unless you just have more and more users and people speaking to you. So it's this idea, build, give it out, listen, and then iterate based on that.
Yeah, you said something that really stuck out, the customer discoveries. A lot of times when we have ideas, I mean, I can even think of ideas previously that I may have had, we're very connected to the idea or what we think it should look like. So you talked a little bit about customer discoveries. When you were doing those, were you separating yourself from your idea and how connected you were to it? Or were you validating when it aligned with your idea and then opposing the information that didn't align with your idea? Because I find that's the biggest back and forth, if you will, that sometimes when I've had conversations with different people and then just experiences in general, you're so connected to this idea. How were you able to disconnect and really listen to be able to either validate or invalidate what you all were doing initially?
Such a good question. Again, it goes back to actually a book I read called Think Again by one of my favorite authors, Adam Grant. His idea is you can't ever get attached to your idea. You can't let your ideas be tied to your person. I feel like I had the same exact issue in the beginning, became very attached to some of the things, like the ideas I had, but it goes back again. I said the ego, taking your ego and putting it into a box and shutting it there and forgetting about it because it's not relevant. When you operate in the space of entrepreneurship, you have to think like a scientist. Both my co-founder Scott and I, we have these scientific research backgrounds. So like we're used to being in the lab and being in places where it's you run a test, you run an experiment, and you see the results. And you have to be with the open mind and understand that not every test you run is going to be successful. I can't tell you how many times you've done something and it just wouldn't work or it would fail. You have to fail, and you have to fail fast. And it's really just about not being attached to the ideas. You get in the customer calls, and yeah, you might have this amazing, amazing idea, but you have to hold off. Like the key to customer discovery is like, don't present your idea. You ask the open-ended questions and you figure out what is this person's central pain point. What are those shark bites, the things that really are bugging them the most? And putting that idea of, yeah, this is my thought that I want to introduce to them later. If it makes sense, then you'll tell them about your idea. But that only comes from volume. You might hear one problem from one person, one problem from another person. But at the end of the day, don't have that confirmation bias and thinking that, this is my idea. One person really loved it. One person really hated it. It's more about speaking to as many people, getting that volume in and taking the trends and amalgamating that information into one thing and never being attached to one product that you love.
This is so good. Okay, I have this one last question to close out. And it is, from two sides. One, from a user side, there may be someone that's watching this right now and they're saying, how do I go and download NerChat? I want to be able to streamline and use my iPhone to communicate if I use a certain type of AAC. So how can they do that if someone's from a user that's wanting to do that, or where does someone go for that?
If you're a user, somebody who has some sort of speech or hearing difficulty or could benefit from NerChat, specifically the in-app keyboard, all you have to do is go on our website, nerchat.com. You'll see links to both the Apple Store and the Google Play Store where we're available. That you can go ahead and download it. It's 30 days for free. Go ahead and try it out. And also, we keep our website completely open. We're hoping to work with many different types of organizations, whether it be telehealth, teletherapy, and these really interesting, school districts, different organizations that are looking and are mission driven and aligned with what we're trying to do. Our Calendly link is available on our website. When you press the contact page, we really strongly encourage anyone who's interested in getting in touch with us to schedule a meeting. As I said, the philosophy of our company is we love to listen. We love to iterate. So it's really get in touch, and we just love to speak.
Okay. On the other side, there may be someone that is a professional, a speech language pathologist, organization who wants to get in touch with you to find out more about how to collaborate with NerChat. So what does that look like? And are there specific types of partnerships that are priority right now?
Yeah, so I would say go to our website again and press the contact page and go and see the schedule a meeting button. Feel free to schedule a meeting with us right there. Our Calendlies are linked, so it's always open. The partnership side, we are so open to that, and that's really what we are looking for currently. That's our biggest focus. So if you're affiliated with a telehealth company, if you're a teletherapist, and you know that your company may have use for, virtual evaluation tools and being able to use a really comprehensive AAC tool that has these integration capabilities, we'd love to speak to you. We'd love to reach out. The same goes for those districts. The same goes for other providers in that sense, or independent SLPs and therapists that are running their own independent practices. Please reach out. We'd love to hear you. And we are all about this integration.
All right. Well, I will also too follow up and have some links, and this is being recorded, so we'll be able to share this out after it completes recording. And I want to thank you, Dylan, what you all are doing. I know, is your partner, co-founder, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, Scott, I know he's not here, but I want to thank both of you all for what you all have created. It is, I believe, disruptive. And I also loved how you talked about the customer discovery process, because that is so important to be able to serve the people that you are trying to serve and provide value. So I'm looking forward to staying connected and following your work. And thank you again for taking the time.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Jordan. I love this platform. Hoping it grows and grows.
Thank you. Okay.